For 50 years, a mother of 3 was missing before police began treating her disappearance as a suspected murder. This is the haunting true story of Isabella Skelton. Some people disappear into crowded streets, unfamiliar cities, or distant roads. Isabella Skelton disappeared from the center of her own life. She was a wife, a mother of 3, and a working woman with relatives, employers, and a home in Manchester. Yet when she vanished in June of 1969, there was no immediate police investigation, no public appeal, and no search that began while the trail was still fresh. For nearly half a century, her absence remained largely confined to the people she had left behind. By the time detectives finally opened a case, they were no longer asking where Isabella had gone. They were asking whether she had ever left her home alive. Isabella was born Isabella McDowell in Glasgow, Scotland, on January 21, 1934. She was known to some as Izzy and was later described as a petite woman with dark wavy hair and a neat classic style of dress. Reports about her early working life say she was employed at a florist and later by the James Howden Engineering Company in Glasgow. In July of 1952, when Isabella was 18, she married Lewis Skelton. The couple went on to have 3 children, a daughter Linda and 2 sons, Richard and Stephen. During the early 1960s, the family left Scotland for Greater Manchester. They initially lived in Salford before settling in Crumpsall, north of Manchester city centre. Their home was on Lydiard Street, a residential road that would eventually become the focus of a murder investigation more than 50 years later. Isabella was a trained typist. Public reports connect her to several employers in the Manchester area, including Atlas Express and Gallagher Cigarettes. At the time of her disappearance, she was reportedly working for Ball Bearing Services. Those details matter because they show that Isabella had a life beyond her home. She had a work history, colleagues, and regular contact with the outside world. She was not someone living entirely beyond public records. Yet after one night in June, every confirmed trace of her appears to stop. The most reliable accounts place Isabella's final known hours between late Thursday, June 5th, and early Friday, June 6, 1969. Some reports use the 5th as the date she disappeared, while others refer to the 6th. That difference reflects the narrow overnight period in which she was last known to be at the family home. No verified public account provides a complete hour-by-hour reconstruction of her final day. What is known comes largely from the later recollections of her daughter. According to Linda, the children were told by their father that Isabella had gone away for work. No confirmed destination was given in the public accounts. No known return date was provided. The children did not see their mother again. The timing made the explanation even harder to understand. Linda's 15th birthday was approaching, and Isabella's son's was reportedly in the hospital with a broken leg. Those circumstances do not prove that Isabella could not have chosen to leave. They do show that her disappearance came at a moment when her children had strong reasons to expect her presence. No publicly available record describes a confirmed work assignment that required Isabella to travel. No later report has identified a hotel, employer, train journey, or address connected to such a trip. That does not prove no journey was planned. It means the explanation given to the children has never been publicly supported by independent evidence. In a more typical missing person case, the first hours create the foundation of the investigation. Police establish when the person was last seen, what they were wearing, whether they carried money, and whether anything was missing from the home. Employers are contacted, friends and relatives are interviewed, neighbors are asked about sounds, visitors, vehicles, or unusual behavior. Isabella's disappearance was not reported to police at the time, so no known investigation preserved those details in 1969. The consequences were enormous. The home was not immediately examined as a potential crime scene. Witness memories were not recorded while recent. Isabella's workplace was not publicly connected to an urgent appeal. Any early evidence that may have existed was left exposed to ordinary changes in time, property, and memory. That lost beginning would later become one of the greatest obstacles facing detectives. For Isabella's children, the absence did not come with an official explanation. There was no confirmed letter from their mother and no verified message saying she had chosen another life. According to later reports, Isabella also failed to appear at her brother's wedding. Her daughter eventually began to question whether the story she had been given could account for decades of silence. In 1975, after the birth of her second child, Linda reportedly began searching for her mother on her own. She checked telephone directories and electoral records, including records connected to Scotland. Glasgow offered an obvious possibility. Isabella had been born there, had worked there, and had family ties there. If she had returned under her married name or resumed contact with people from her earlier life, some trace might have remained. Linda found nothing that confirmed her mother was alive. Later reports say no record was found of Isabella claiming a pension or receiving medical care under her known identity. No confirmed sighting after June of 1969 has been made public. These absences cannot reveal precisely what happened, but together they weakened the possibility that Isabella simply established an ordinary new life elsewhere. Still, years continued to pass without a formal missing persons case. Isabella's children became adults. Her grandchildren were born. Her name survived through family memory, but the period when a conventional investigation might have reconstructed her movements was disappearing. Then, in 1919, half a century after Isabella vanished, her family reported her missing to Greater Manchester Police. Detectives now faced a case unlike the one they would have encountered in 1969. They were investigating a disappearance from an era of paper records, limited surveillance, and no digital trail. Many potential witnesses would have been elderly or deceased. Former employers had changed, closed, or lost historical files. Even simple questions about Isabella's final routine had become difficult to answer with confidence. The police began examining whether Isabella survived beyond the night she disappeared. In September of 2020, investigators released a computer-generated age progression image showing how she might have looked as an older woman. The image was designed to support public recognition, but it also illustrated the uncertainty at the center of the case. Detectives could create a face for the woman Isabella might have become, yet they had no verified evidence that she had lived long enough to resemble it. Media reports state that a man was questioned under caution on suspicion of Isabella's murder in or around 2020. Public accounts differ on the exact timing and on whether the police action should be described as an arrest or an interview under caution. No charge followed, and authorities have not publicly explained the evidence surrounding that questioning. The person was not identified in reliable official material available to the public. By that stage, the investigation had moved far beyond the idea of a routine disappearance. Greater Manchester Police's Cold Case Review Unit was treating the matter as a suspected murder. The focus soon returned to the last place Isabella was known to have lived, the house on Lydiard Street. In April of 2021, forensic officers began searching the former family home. The people living there at the time had no connection to Isabella's disappearance and were temporarily moved while the examination took place. Police identified the address as Isabella's last known residence and said investigators were continuing to pursue every available line of inquiry. Later reports described an extensive operation involving the garden and cellar. The search reportedly followed information concerning possible disturbance of the ground at the property. Excavation work continued for weeks, with some accounts placing the duration at roughly 12 weeks. For investigators, the search offered a chance to test whether the answer had remained hidden at the place where Isabella was last known to be. No human remains were recovered. Police did not announce any physical discovery that explained Isabella's disappearance. After decades of uncertainty, one of the most direct investigative possibilities had been examined without resolving the case. That result did not establish that nothing had happened at the house. More than 50 years had passed before the property was searched. The building and surrounding land could no longer be examined in their original condition. Nor did the unsuccessful excavation prove that Isabella had left the property voluntarily. It ruled out only what the search teams could detect in the areas they examined. The case later received renewed public attention through media coverage and a BBC Crime Watch appeal in 2024. Investigators and Isabella's family continued asking for information from anyone who might remember the household, the street, or conversations from that period. In a case this old, even a detail once dismissed as insignificant could help establish a missing part of the timeline. Further searching took place behind the former home. In July of 2025, Locate International worked with specialist teams to examine an area of concrete that had once contained sheds or garages. Ground-penetrating radar was used to map what lay beneath the surface. The survey produced an anomaly considered worthy of closer examination, creating another possible lead. Teams returned in the spring of 2026 and drilled into the concrete. Most of the unusual radar signals were found to have been caused by air gaps beneath the concrete cap. The site did not produce the discovery investigators and Isabella's family had hoped for. The known evidence leaves several possible explanations, but none can be presented as proven. Isabella may have left voluntarily, though no confirmed later identity, address, employment record, medical history, or pension activity has been publicly connected to her. She may have died through accident or suicide after leaving the house, though no remains or location have been linked to her. She may have encountered another person after departing, but no reliable public account places her with an outsider that night. Police have treated the case as a suspected homicide, but they have not publicly disclosed a complete theory of what happened. No person has been convicted of causing Isabella's disappearance. The available facts do not establish who was responsible, where she was taken, or whether she ever crossed the threshold of the Lydiard Street home after her final known night there. One of the most troubling features of the case is not a physical clue, but the absence of a timely challenge to the explanation given in 1969. The children were told their mother had gone away for work. Because the disappearance was not formally reported, investigators could not test that claim against employer records, travel information, fresh witness accounts, or the immediate condition of the home. That delay shaped everything that followed. It forced Linda to begin her own search years later. It required police to rebuild a family history from fragments. It transformed an ordinary residential property into a suspected crime scene after generations had passed. Every later search was conducted under the same limitation. The people looking for Isabella were trying to recover answers that should have been pursued decades earlier. The case remains open. Isabella has not been located, and no confirmed sighting has placed her anywhere after the night of June 5th into June 6, 1969. Her children were left without a verified account of why she disappeared. Her daughter spent years searching records before the authorities were finally asked to investigate. Isabella Skelton's story endures because it contains two mysteries. The first concerns what happened to a 35-year-old mother in Crumpsall. The second concerns how her absence could remain outside a police investigation for 50 years. One mystery may explain the other, or they may be separate parts of the same tragedy. Somewhere in the missing hours between Thursday night and Friday morning, Isabella's known life ended. What followed was not a confirmed journey, a documented decision, or a clear goodbye. It was a silence that lasted long enough to outlive witnesses, erase records, and turn a family home into the center of a cold case murder inquiry. The ground has been excavated, concrete has been scanned and drilled, records have been searched, an age progression image has been released, and a man has been questioned. None of it has revealed where Isabella went. Until new evidence emerges, the final truth remains beyond the reach of her family and the investigators still carrying her name. And somewhere behind the simple statement that she had gone away for work lies the answer to a question that has followed Isabella Skelton for more than half a century. What really happened inside that Manchester home in June of 1969?